All right. Well, Broncos country, what is going on, man? Broncos are 9-5. I am joined by my good friend Jeremy. You can follow him at Jeremy Sean A on YouTube. Jeremy, how we feeling, man? What's your reaction initially to the Broncos 31-13 win against the Colts today?
Yeah, I feel like that game took years off my life. Like that was 3 quarters of just like absolute frustration, misery, and then you're just like wanting them to get it together, and then all of a sudden like a fourth quarter of like heaven kind of. That Jonathan Taylor no moss.
Yeah.
That was thank you very much, dude. Like if I
Yeah,
was I
man.
was talking to my brother-in-law, I was like, if you're a Colts fan and you're going up 13 and then that happens and you lose the way that happened, like you have to be this was your Super Bowl, you have to be out of your mind like upset the way that went.
Yeah.
But
You've got to be sick.
if anybody who lived through the Trindon holiday days knows how that play goes against the Broncos, and so we were due one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, no
Because
shit. I feel like man. I feel like really today Christmas came early for Bronco fans, but I feel like this curse that we've had on us for God no, almost a decade now. It seems like it's like lifted
yeah,
because today we had everything bounce our way, um, and we deserve one of those. I don't care what anybody says. We'll take it, man, because we've had a lot of games in the past where it would not go that way. That's 3 games in a row now we've won. And I feel like those were games that we probably would have lost, not just last year, but in the many years prior.
yep.
Um, and we'll take it. But dude, is Nick Bonito just becoming an absolute superstar before our eyes, or what?
Dude, that play was the one that really broke their back. It was one thing to like the Taylor thing, but then he was like pumping them up, like we'll be all right, we'll be all right. They're still up 6. We couldn't really do anything right after that, so it
Mm-hmm.
didn't really end up like killing them. But the Benito play, I texted you when it happened. I've never seen that trick play get passed back to the quarterback and get picked off like ever. It's
No,
always so wide open. And then, yeah, my brother-in-law who went to the game, he said if that would have got to the quarterback, their tight end was like wide open. So, you know, Benito saving the day, and TJ Watt hurt his Achilles, so his season might be done. I don't know. And if Benito finishes strong, you just never know. I don't think that he has the name recognition for that type of defensive player award, but you just
he's
you don't
yeah,
know.
he's put on the map now, man. I'll tell you that. And
Yeah.
we got Big E Broncos coming through, 21 touchdowns, 11 INTs. Bo Nix as a rookie already outperformed Russell Wilson. I mean, 100%. I think, aside from stats, there's been so many things that he's been able to do that, Russ really couldn't do in this offense. And it's clearly it was always about fit,
Definitely.
and he's just getting started on this trajectory, man. He definitely struggled today. He looked a little bit more like week 1, week 2 Bo. He looked like a rookie, but I think it's fine. These are growing pains. He's not being helped out too much by a run game. We'll talk about that. The run game has been terrible.
Horrible.
But you got to love how he bounced back. He was still able to get 3 touchdowns himself. He didn't let it, you know, rattle him too much. And I thought what he had said post game was awesome too, just about how he handles that. So yeah, man, big shout out to Bo Nix after, really not having an overall good game, still being able. We won by 18 points, dude. It felt like it was just it was weird, man.
It
It
felt
was
like
it
we were
was
down 18 for like 3 quarters of that game, even though
it
we
really
weren't.
did. It really did, and it felt like an offensive struggle. But do you feel like the Broncos run game or lack of run game is a big issue? Because I feel
Yeah.
like we're kind of playing by fire right now,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
we just can't keep doing this.
no. I mean, I honestly think the interceptions and the reason why it's been a couple bad games in a row of bad play calling is because they don't have a run game. Like you don't have someone like the biggest help for a young quarterback is your run game, and you don't have anything going on right now. And then when you only have Sutton, and he's not like Mr. Separation guy, he's like possession guy. And when he's dropping balls and you have other guys dropping balls, it's like, I mean, it's not an excuse, but it's like he's going to start forcing some stuff because he's feeling the pressure. He feels the weight. He knows going into this game how big it is. We have to win this game, and he's just going to start pushing it. And, you know, I, it's just a human nature type of thing. the two people that I really blame for this game, let's be honest, is Adam Archuleta and Spiro Ditas, because they were the ones that called week 1 and week 2, and then they called this game. So it's
Oh, did
all
they
on
really?
them.
Is that the only 3 games they've
That's
called?
the only 3
shit.
games they've called. So I'm like,
Yeah, no more of
that's
them.
the problem. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
no more of them.
No, but he just need. I mean, that's why we're not going to get a run game probably unless Estime gets pushed in and starts balling this season, and that's why the draft coming up is going to be so big because we need running backs, we need a tight end. My God, but Adkins, the one chance he gets, he almost dropped it and then makes an unbelievable like broken tackle to score. That was nice. But yeah, I mean, the lack of weapons showed up again today for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I feel like maybe these tight ends are like not as bad as we think because it seems like when they're targeted, they catch the ball.
I mean,
Oh man, that sneeze was coming. But it's like they don't really get thrown to that much. I get why. There's nothing special about them, and it's definitely not by any means saying that like it's a great room or even a good room. But I feel like maybe we should start using them a little bit more because it seems like good things start to happen. I mean, we had Trotman. I made a video earlier. Trotman had two targets, 2 catches, a touchdown. Nate Atkins, 1 target, 1 catch, 1 touchdown. Lucas Kroll, 2 targets, 2 catches. And that's kind of been the theme for them all year. Like, they have an extremely high completion percentage when they're thrown to.
Yeah.
But they're not utilized enough. But, yeah, man, I think and then Big E Bronco here, sorry, real quick. He said, is TJ Watt's done for the season? I read and I heard from him that it was just a low ankle sprain. I don't think it's anything actually that serious, which is obviously good news for him. I love that dude.
Because I saw something saying Achilles, so that
it looked worse. I think that was the initial, but he came off and he talked about that it wasn't a big deal.
Okay.
But Jaleel McLaughlin did go out in this game, and with a quad injury and with a quick turnaround, he might not be available to play on Thursday, and I feel like that's gonna force Blake Watson at least to get elevated, right?
You would think.
And who knows, man? Who knows? At this point, it's like I'm willing to try anything to get this guy going. But yeah, the run game's got to be better. It's not like we can blame the O-line anymore. We know that they're top 5 in terms of run win rate and blocking. So it's just got to be better because we cannot keep playing by fire, and it's gonna make Bo's life so much easier because teams are able to just stop us with their front 4. They don't have to stack the box. Nothing. They could just front 4 and play coverage all day like the Colts did today, and it's a problem.
What I don't understand is Estime is like every time he gets an opportunity, he looks good. Mm-hmm. Like he's moving the pile. He's at least falling forward, stuff that Javonte is not. And then he just doesn't get the run next week. And I'm like, why? I just don't get it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if they're worried about him fumbling or his pass pro or what, but
I don't know what it is at this point because I get it. Like Sean Payne's told us, we've talked about it a lot. I know why, Javonte's a great pass protector, and he's got decent hands. But I'm sorry, like that's not good enough. I don't think that there's anything that he can do that Audric Estime can't, and I'm kind of sick of just rolling out with the same stuff. It kind of drives me nuts. But my man DB94, what's up, man? How you doing? KAD impressed me today. Yes, hell yeah, man. He looked awesome. He looked so good today. I'm hopeful that PS2 and Riley Moss can be healthy soon. It didn't look good. PS2's injury, he looked like he was in a lot of pain. We might be without both starting corners on Thursday against the Chargers. Now, good news is at least they don't have the most prolific passing game. But how do you feel about the Broncos' chances going into LA with Chris Abrams-Drain and Damari Mathis being your starting corners potentially?
Not good. That would not be my choice. But next man up. You got to do what you got to do. They're a little banged up. The Chargers are. So, time to put your big boy pants on, and you're in the NFL for a reason, and no excuses, man. Like you got to go out. I'm glad we didn't see Levi Wallace today. I think we learned some lessons, and KAD looked good. I mean, he's a rookie, so there's going to be some times he needs to get his head around, and there was one that ended up being that long one in the end zone that ended up knocking Alec Pierce out of the game for a concussion. That could have got called maybe. They were hand fighting, and he didn't really look around until the end. But the ball, I think, just ended up hitting him, so that's probably why it didn't get called. But for the most part, like I love his feistiness. I love the way that he's competing. He's not leaving guys wide open like some people. So
Yeah,
yeah, no, I'm impressed. And every rep he gets, every game he gets, it's just better for next year and better for the
100%.
future.
And
So
yeah, I
if
was
we
surprised by him a little bit. I thought he'd be more of a slot guy, but he looks like he could play outside corner. He looks really good out there.
Yeah, there was one play that the guy dropped it and he probably wasn't going to catch it no matter what Drain did, but Drain made a really nice break on it and then grabbed his arms thinking he probably still had it, which he didn't. It had gone through his hands. But like just that play alone, you saw like everything from Abrams' Drain. It was just like how quick he is how to recover, and then how competitive he was after he thought the guy caught it, and it was like a third and whatever, and that made him punt. But like I was like, that's a huge play. That was a great break that he did on that. So I mean, I just like corners who are really feisty, who are like you're going to have a long day no
Yeah,
matter what.
he's got
That's
a lot of that.
that's the type of corner I like.
Yeah, no doubt.
The PS2 like injury, gosh, it feels like it happened on that pick, and then he got up, and it looked like when he got up, like there was literally no one in the screen from the Colts, and then all of a sudden, some dudes just
Josh Downs just decked him. Yeah,
flying through his legs, which some people were like, that was dirty, but I'm like, I mean, you're trying to make a tackle. I don't. And
yeah.
I'm kind of surprised PS2 didn't see him at all. I think
Mhm.
that made the hit more awkward. And then he asked to go back in, which if I'm Vance, I'm like, nah, just we're up 17 or 18 or whatever. Just take the rest of the day. But he goes
Yeah,
back in for one play, then he gets hurt, and you're just like, that's so stupid. Like, you shouldn't even have gone in. But
yeah. It's one of the. I mean, I don't know if you saw the post game presser. Sean Payton actually was asked about that. Like, do you have those conversations of like if you should let Patrick Surtain come back in? He shot it down really quickly. He's like, if we talk to the player and the medical staff, if the player wants to go back in and the medical staff says he's good to go, we let him play. There's no excuses. And a part of me gets that. Like I do
yeah,
because you talk about building a culture. But another part of me is like, let's use a little bit of common sense here. You know what I mean?
well,
Like sometimes you got to save the player from his own self. But it's hindsight, right? You can't really.
right. If he goes back in and he's fine, nobody says anything. The problem I have is, and maybe this is more of a learning experience from not just the coaches, but for Pat Surtain himself, is like if you have any sort of like, this might be something that like you could make worse, just don't. Because a player like this is their whole life. Like they
Yeah.
want to play football, and you just got to pick. You could have a epic game here going. He's going to want to go back in, but that's where you need to like tell your players at a time. Look, I love guys that are competitive and want to like every snap, but know the situational awareness at that point. Like, don't push something. You're too important. Like, you're captain. You're like you're the best player on the team. One of them. Like, just be smart about it.
Yeah. No, and it seems like anytime that the Broncos are about to play on a Thursday night game, Pat Surtain decides he wants to get injured. And he got the concussion last time. Didn't play on the Thursday
No.
game.
Yeah, let's not. No
This
more
is a quick
Spiro.
turnaround. Yeah, it is frustrating. It would have been a good opportunity to get the younger guys some more reps, right? I mean, you saw Damari Mathis out there. He made a decent play, nice play at the end of the game there.
Yeah.
Chris Abrams drain. This is going to be a hell of a test for this team. Like a part of me loves it. A part of me obviously is terrified, and I hate the idea of it. But it's like you're going to have young guys. One of them being a rookie this year, thrown into the fire at the most crucial time of the season against a divisional rival to try to win the game. So,
Yeah.
and it's going to be huge. Like I don't know. I just don't unless I hear some really good news about PS2. I'm not expecting him to be out there.
No,
We haven't really heard anything about Riley, so it's like, damn, Chris Abrams drain against Lad McConkey, and they got Quentin Johnson on the other side. How are they going to play it? It's going to gonna be crazy to watch, man. It's gonna be crazy to watch. But
It'll be interesting to see the body language of the Chargers getting blown out like that too. How they respond on a short week.
yeah,
Because it would be weird for them. Like short weeks are always tough to come out like with a lot of energy. Everybody seems to come out kind of weird on a Thursday night because games are not. Your body's not ready for a game that quick. And Sean felt like, hey, we're coming off a bye. We have the Colts, and then we can maybe press the Chargers to be in a short week against us, and we're going to go for that advantage. And that's fine. And then you get injuries like this, and you're just like, well, that didn't work out. But it is what it is. I mean, Herbert's a little banged up too, so you just don't know. I mean,
yeah. It was more the long-term approach. He talked about that as well in the post-game presser. He said, when we first saw the opportunity, firstly, he loves the idea of just showcasing to the NFL and the NFL world. He's like, I want these guys playing on primetime. I want them to be under the lights, and I want to show them. But also, he talked about how he's like the weirdest time of the year from a scheduling standpoint is the week of Christmas because of like what days you can practice, what days you can't. So he looked at this as like an advantage and as a way to be able to get a couple extra days during that Christmas week where you'd normally be missing work. Yeah. So that was a little bit of that as well. But yeah, I kind of go back. Like I don't know if I'm mentally ready for a game in 4 days.
I know it's like we had that 2-week off period, and you felt like I was chomping at the bit for some more Broncos football, and then all of a sudden it's like bang bang right in a row, and like huge games, not just like another game, but like rival playoffs on the line, all the things,
Yeah.
DB,
no doubt, man.
94. The comment earlier about Sutton dropping that ball, dude.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was right there with you. He had 2 basically drops in a row, both through that one in the end zone absolutely perfectly, and he was playing defense on the defender on the cornerback until the last second, and then tried to make the play. And it was like, if you just would have ran the route, you would have been in the perfect spot to make the play. But that happens sometimes, whatever. But then the next play to get hit right in the chest on 3rd down, could have kept the drive going, and to drop that, you're like, you're supposed to, everybody's starting to call you elite, dude. Like, come on, catch the ball. Like, how many drops do we need to see this year?
Yeah. And you know what I was surprised by with this team, man? And it started with Sutton too, but they came out really, like, it was weird. I felt like they were really feeling the pressure themselves. I really felt like they were tense. Sutton was kind of, talking to Sean, and they were going back and forth, and his body language was off, which was surprising from him because he's kind of always viewed to be that leader. Bo Nix, apparently, after the second pick, he threw the tablet, was all pissed. And then even Riley Dixon, after the punt, was like mad. And Will Lutz had to calm him down. So the vibe and the energy of the team, everything was weird. But the defense said, we got you. They've gotten us a lot this year. The offense did hook them up last week. I know that the defense still had 2 pick sixes and all that, but the offense at least was able to get points, in that game against the Browns, and I think that they played really well against the Falcons and the Raiders as well. But as a team, I love what we're becoming, but I think we're just playing by fire. We need to kind of clean some things up because this is not sustainable by no means.
Well, here's the thing: is like when you see guys yelling on the sideline or yelling on the field or getting really pissed or emotional or like frustrated, that's either one or two things. That's either a team that's a mess and has completely like gone off the rails, or in this case of what I believe, this is a team that actually is starting to believe in themselves and they're getting really freaking frustrated that they're losing to a team they feel like they should be beating. And that 100%. Was what that was. Yeah. They were like, we're better than this team. We know we're better than this team, and it's not happening right now, and it's pissing me off. And, like if anybody who's played sports, you just go out sometimes and you start losing to a team you should be winning or playing against a person that you should be beating, and you're like, you start to lose it. And that's what it felt like. And that's a good sign that you have like the confidence of like, we're better than this, and I know we're better than this. And that was not the team that started this season, but that's where we're at now, which is good.
No, you make a really good point because that's been missing for so long. I mean, there's been so many games I can think about. Obviously the Christmas Eve game last year against the Patriots. The team's just kind of sitting there on the sidelines, and they lose, and everyone's smiling around, and then obviously the many years before that, there was so many times where I felt like, do these guys even care, right?
Right.
So seeing that fire, you make a good point. It was really, it's definitely very, very refreshing to see for sure, and so. Good point there. I wanted to pull this up too.
Yeah.
This was kind of interesting to me in terms of the overall standing. So obviously, right now we're sitting at 9-5. I'll put the playoff one here in a second, but look at this point differential, 89-point differential. That's second in the entire AFC, and it's like top 5 in the league, I think, in terms of the point differential. So since and Mike Kliss had talked something about it, like. Since the blocked field goal in Kansas City, this team is 4-0, and they're winning games on an average of 17 points per game. It's crazy.
We're winning by 17?
On average. Dang. In those 4 games. So as ugly as it's been, right, I think this is really such a changing in the guard because, like, I'm still so worried and nervous about things about this team. And it's like, man, even us as Bronco fans have been, like, already we're just back into that, the frame of thinking that I feel like we've always been used to in terms of like setting the right standards. But I mean, I don't care what the schedule says. It's not like we can control the schedule, but that's pretty damn impressive. And what's crazy right now is we're sitting in the 6th seed.
Yeah.
Playoffs started right now. We would have the matchup we all want. The Pittsburgh Russ versus Broncos matchup, man. So how are you feeling about this? You think we clinch it next week?
I don't know. I'm 50-50 on this next game. Because of the injuries, you just don't know. I like our spirit, and I like – you know what it felt like this game was to me? It felt like for 3 quarters we were still on our bye mentally. It felt like they just weren't – some of the players this week talked about they didn't want to bye almost because they didn't want to lose the momentum that they had. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting when you have a super late bye. You think they would be like dying for it, but they weren't. They were like, "Oh, I wish it's kind of coming not great because we were like rolling right now." And it felt like the bye did kill the momentum a little bit, but they finally knocked off what I won't call it rust after 2 weeks, but like just whatever that funk, that couch funk was, that they were like just chilling on. They finally, once they dialed in and a break went their way and Mims gets a return and all these other things and then it's like, okay, now this is us again. And so going into this next game, I wouldn't be surprised if we come out and play really well and now we're back to playing good again. But at the same time, like, I just don't want our team to be one of those teams where it's just like, we're going to F around for 3 quarters and then expect to do something in the 4th.
Exactly.
I just don't want that habit. That's a bad.
Yeah. It's getting too comfortable. No, I agree with you 100%. And I mean, just like Magdus Odin Illout, or sorry if I messed that up.
That's a crazy name. You got to tell me where you're from. That's a cool name.
Yeah, just like Magus though over here. He had said, I think a run game would take a lot of pressure off of Knicks. Yes, 1,000%. And 27 carries for 72 yards. At a 2.7 carry is absolutely abysmal. It's pathetic.
And look who
quarterback
led the team.
Cannot be the leading rusher for your team.
Exactly.
It just can't. And it's terrible. And it's been way too consistent. And that's not a good kind. That's not a good kind of consistent.
Exactly.
So yeah, we definitely can't keep living like that for sure. In my opinion, man. So it's a really good point there.
This is why
I just don't know. Like, is it too late in the season to figure something out? I have no idea.
I mean, the only thing I could see us figuring out is if, like, because McLaughlin gets hurt and you're forced into feeding Estime, and all of a sudden Estime starts doing really well, and then all this, like, you have 3 games to kind of like really get him going, and by the time the playoffs hit, you're like, he's the man and all that, and that can happen. But it feels like where we're sitting right now, our best hopes for a run game are next year in the draft and getting a beast. And typically, I'm not a person who wants to draft a tight end or a running back in the first round. But if there's a year to do it, if there's a guy that you absolutely love, but it's deep. You got a deep draft for both of those positions. So don't just take the next guy because that's a
You
position
need
of
it.
need.
Yeah.
But if there's a guy that you love at either one of those positions, if you love, Warren as a tight end, or if you love Caleb from Iowa or whoever, like, yeah, I mean, having a stud running back, like, look what it did. I mean, look what it did for Elway in his later years. It completely changed everything for him,
Yeah.
And we didn't have a great running game with Peyton, but like we had a good enough one that, could like change things up.
Yeah.
For
CJ Anderson was that guy, man. I loved
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. I mean, but he wasn't like some like guy that's just going to break off some like 70-yard run, but he was like the low
Mhm.
grounded mutter guy who
Yep.
he can make big plays in big moments, and, yeah, a running game that would be the number one thing more than anything.
Yeah.
Like if we could get our running game going, and it's a frustrating to like every week to be like, this offensive line is rated top whatever 3 run blocking in the whole NFL, and it's like, well, why can't we run the
Yeah.
ball then?
I know. I know.
So
It's definitely crazy. I mean, I feel like that there's definitely a changing of the guard in the NFL too. I think for so many years, it kind of, running backs show to not really be that valuable. You can kind of plug anybody in and they can be productive, but it's kind of starting to flip back now. If you look at it, I mean, look at what Saquon's done to the Eagles, right? Look at what Josh Jacobs right now with the Packers has done by going there and playing for him, and then the way Mixon's been balling in Houston. It's been interesting. It's been
yeah,
interesting. So I mean, I think that there's guys you can get in free agency. I think there's guys that you can get in the draft, but we cannot keep rolling out the same thing. It's getting to the point where it's driving me a little bit nuts.
yeah.
And unfortunately, it looks like it's took an injury to one of the guys to be able to like change some things up. But who knows? I mean, that could be a blessing in disguise. So I'm
I just don't.
still I'm still like maybe Blake Watson, but maybe we activate Tyler Bidet, right? I mean, we've
Yeah,
heard
could
about
be.
him. I guess he's been ready. They just haven't activated him for whatever reason. So I guess we'll
Yeah,
see.
it will be interesting to see who they activate. Now, the only thing that concerns me about it is like the lack of run game could hurt the development of your quarterback because you don't want him to get bad habits of forcing it. And Bo has been really, really good at not forcing it
Mm-hmm.
since the beginning of the season. And then today there was 3 balls or 2 balls where you're just like, I don't think the second one, Sean seemed to think it was on Sutton, but 2 of those were like, dude, you didn't need to throw that. You could have checked it down. Like, and I think he's gonna, and Bo's gonna learn from that. I'm not worried about it, but I just don't want him to like. He's not an idiot. He knows like this whole stadium's probably rocking more than it ever has this whole season, and you have 2 weeks to think about this one game and how big this game was and our chances of the playoffs going to 90%, and we're only 40% if we lose. Like
Yeah.
you hear that over and over and over, and you're like, oh, that's gonna put pressure on you, like subconsciously. And there were some throws there where you're just like, oh, dude, don't do that. And
Yeah.
he had set that amazing throw to Mims last week. So like that's one of those ones where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that happened and it shut a lot of people up. But it also like sometimes is like that doesn't mean you should throw everything. Like,
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. Yeah, I think
Learn a
over
little.
overconfidence can happen, right? And I do believe I got to go back and I'll watch the all 22 and stuff this week, but I believe that a lot of the other guys, it seemed like they really struggled to get open too. And I think that's why he started force feeding it to Sutton.
Yep.
Because Vele had only one target, didn't get the catch.
Right.
Franklin didn't really do too much. Marvin Mims changed this game. Now he didn't do it offensively, but damn did he change the game with his special teams ability. That was special. It was nice to see it because he kind of is the reason he kind of blew it for us in the game last year against the Patriots with that fumble.
Yeah, that's
So
true. That's a good
it
point.
was so nice to see him bounce back and say, you know what, I'm gonna make a huge impact where he's kind of cut his teeth. That's why he's one of the best return men. No doubt about it.
That Patriots game was like the make or break game for us last year. And he was the reason we lost that game. And for this to be like the make or break going into this and for him to have a big day, I know it was probably frustrating. He remember that one punt return where he took a really late fair catch and the official wasn't even 100% sure if he took one because he caught it and then took a
Yeah.
couple steps and then stopped, and then the official blew it, and it was just like, oh, they both weren't kind of sure what happened there.
Mm.
And it was wide open too, where he
Yeah.
could have had a monster return on that. And he was like, all right, next one I'm taking. And he
Yeah.
did, and he redeemed himself. And he followed his blocks. He's pointing blocks out. And those were huge, huge plays. Because when your quarterback's struggling to like third down, move the ball, that kind of stuff, and to get it at the 15, it's just like, yeah, exactly the right. I mean, that's DB94 nails it. It's nice when, and look, yeah, you're especially your rookie quarterback who has a million things going on in his head. For the other guys to pick up the slack was exactly what a team is for, and that's why like people love Bo as a leader, because they know he's going to give everything he's got, and then they want to like step up for him. It's another thing when it's like this guy's kind of like all about himself, kind of a quarterback,
Yeah.
and you just are like, he's not having a good day. Oh well. But when your guy is like, no, screw that, we're gonna pick it up for him. That's where you start to have a really good team.
Yeah, I wish I had taken some of those videos so I could show them on here, man, because that post game was so good, and he talked about it. I loved it. Guys, I highly recommend going and check it on the Broncos Twitter account or their website, the Bo Nix press conference, because him and Sean's, frankly, but they asked him about that exact thing. You know, he's like, talk about how he's struggling, how he worked through it. And then one of the guys in the media asked him, do you say something to Sutton after he's dropped a couple balls? And he goes, hell no. He's like, I have not been playing well at all. I would look like an idiot if I go up to him and say, hey, why aren't you catching the ball when I'm not playing good?
Right.
He's like, so no, you got to learn, when to speak up and when to shut your mouth. And that's one of those situations where you got to keep your mouth shut and just trust that they're going to make the play next time. And I'm like, that's so refreshing, because he's right. And it's about reading the room. I think that's what makes, some guys good leaders and some guys not. I think that's why, and I hate to bring Russell Wilson back to this, but I think that's why Russell Wilson, like a lot of players, this is not just in Denver, but in Seattle, that were rubbed wrong by him, because he's almost always so positive, right?
Yeah.
Which you would think it's a good thing, but it can get really annoying. Like when you're losing, even as a fan, like, we're like the first year with Hackett, we were like, I don't know what, 4-10 or something. Yeah. And he's sitting there talking about how everything is great and he's so blessed with this opportunity. And I'm like, dude, like, we don't really give a shit right now. Like we don't care. We just want you to be real with us for once. And that real moment is so nice.
Apparently, right? Russ is he had like a mentor, best friend type of guy who always was like trying to teach him how to be like positive in every sort of moment and all this kind of stuff. And then that guy passed away, and it was like a huge loss for him. And I think he just like was like, I need to carry this forward with everything. Mm-hmm. But it comes off fake when there's this. I don't know if you have ever seen The Naked Gun, the movie. It's like a classic like slapstick comedy.
I've heard about it, but
go watch it. It's awesome. But there's a scene in there. It's it's like a old kind of police detective type of show or movie. And Leslie Nielsen is like slapstick, like legend kind of guy. So he's in there, and somebody runs a car into a building. There's the building's on fire. People are jumping out of the window. There's fireworks going off, and he's standing out there in front of with a bullhorn saying, "Nothing to see here. Please move forward. Nothing to see." And that's what it felt like.
Yeah, right.
Russ was doing last year. You're like, or with Hackett, you're like, dude, just like admit what's going. I mean, it comes off almost insane when you're like, everything's great.
No, it does.
And if you're on the team and you're seeing like your supposed leader be like, hey, everything can be better, and you're like, it couldn't, because it seems like it's horrible, and I feel horrible. Like, what are you talking about? So,
no doubt about it, man. And so it was nice. It was really refreshing to see that. I know Pro 16K here, so we're on a collision course with the Steelers. We talked about that. I don't think TJ's done for the season. I think he just had a low ankle sprain is what he had talked about. I know there was some other reports out there. Jeremy had brought it up. So you never want to root for that. I mean, if he was out for the year, it would be a huge loss for them.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, that's what it's looking like. And I'm really hoping, 4 days from now on Thursday night after the game's done, we can actually be talking about the postseason. It's crazy to think about that, but I love that matchup. I agree. I would love to play the Steelers for a lot of reasons. And I think the Russ Sean Payton storyline would be amazing, but I don't want to play Buffalo. That's for damn sure. And it doesn't look like the Chiefs realistically are going to be the ones in in the first round. Even though, breaking news, you can hear it here, it looks like Patrick Mahomes does have a high ankle sprain. They said that they believe he might miss some time. I never believe that.
No.
I think Patrick Mahomes is invincible in a lot of ways, and I think that he plays off those injuries a lot, but he does have a high ankle sprain. He might miss the next couple of games, so we'll see.
When Ben Roethlisberger retired, he passed the mantle down to Patrick Mahomes of milking some BS injuries. Like, that dude would be barely able to walk, and it was like, supposedly, he'd be like, oh, my leg is about to fall off. And then he's like sprinting full speed next series. You're like, come on, like, what are we doing? And Patrick Mahomes just feels like that same guy. Like, I'm sure he's not invincible. I'm sure all that stuff. But like, the dude doesn't, whatever's going on with that dude, whatever deals he's made have seemed to been working for him, because that guy just doesn't, I will never trust. Like, unless when he died, when his like retirement, when he actually retires from the football, that's when I'll stop believing that guy is like not coming back, because
I agree.
I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. He's
No
one. I
doubt.
mean, and to his credit, he's a gamer. Like, he's one of those people that maybe, Jordan was. I'm not calling him Jordan, but like, Jordan's one of those people that he's like, he will him past his own abilities of like what is possible. And Holmes just seems to have like a sense about him, and he's just, the thing that just drives me absolutely crazy is how nobody hits him when he's running. And I'm like, he just brushes people off, and I'm like, he's a big target who doesn't seem like he's running that fast, and no one's tackling. It just drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
No, it does. It does for me too, man. And I think he's definitely got a lot of Jordan in him, no doubt about it. And Pro 16 said, I'm a little late. He said, I'm a little late. Never thought you guys were coming on tonight. Well, you were right. You thought right. We weren't planning on this. We kind of did it impromptu, last minute.
I told Doug earlier in the other chat that we were probably doing it late tonight.
Yeah, I think we're going to do it tomorrow as well with David from David Talks Broncos. But I think that, I know for me on my end, I didn't want to, I don't want to annoy my wife after she got home here a little later. So I figured I'd get on and talk with you guys. And I know many times it's the same with Jeremy, so it's kind of a win-win. But let's see what else he said. He said, we are making the playoffs. Pick a team. We beat it 1 out of 3. I say the Chargers, if not the Chiefs.
1 out of 3 we're going to win in the next 3 games?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so he's saying that he thinks it's the Chargers, but if it's not, it's the Chiefs. It's funny that Bengals game is scary. I would probably agree with that, even though I do believe, for whatever reason, maybe it's just because I'm on a high now, but I do believe the Broncos will beat the Chargers. I think we're catching them at a really good time. So I think and that game's going to be a home game. We already know that. That
Bengals one, they just might be psychologically in a different weird place at that point in the season, knowing they're playing for nothing, and maybe you just don't know. Like, if they were given everything they got, I'd be worried about the Bengals, but you just don't know psychologically how they're like even going to attempt going into it.
Yeah.
And they might have a worse enough season where they're like, let's tank a little bit and get a higher draft, because we're probably not going to be picking low very often. So you just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah.
The Chiefs
They do play the Browns. They do play the Browns next week. It's a divisional game. You never know what happens. So it could really be that Bengals game is irrelevant if the Browns end up beating them. So you never know.
And for us, we might get to the end of the season against the Chiefs and have nothing to play for. I always looked at it like the other way of like, oh, the Chiefs might have nothing to play for because they might have the number 1 seed wrapped up, and we are like fighting to get in the playoffs. So maybe we could catch them while they're not that we're catching them. I think we could beat them straight up. We should have beat them straight up in Kansas City, but it could be easier that way. But now we might be the one, like they might be fighting for the 1st seed, and we might be locked into whatever seed we're in. So it's interesting. I was telling my brother earlier, I was like, how weird is it that we're a month away from like playoffs and we're almost basically in? Like, who would have picked that? Like 9-5 sounds like unbelievable right now. And I love the fact that we haven't played our best this last 3 games, and we've won and covered. Like, I don't care about covering, but like just the fact that like they weren't like nail biters that we got lucky or something. Like we handled the business that we needed to handle.
But yes, huge. Yeah.
And so, we talked about this a lot earlier in the season when we were winning games, but it's like when you're winning and not playing your best, that's a good sign of a good football team. But when you're not winning or you're not playing your best and winning by 18 or whatever,
Yeah.
like that's really like, oh my gosh. Now, certain plays had to happen for this one. I mean, the Taylor thing was insane, and then the Benito and all the other stuff. But
Yeah.
you mentally had to fight through all of the struggles, and Bo not playing well, and the run game, and all the things, and you were able to like overcome all that is like a really good sign.
Yeah. No doubt about it, man. And that's crazy. It's crazy, to think about that exact same thing. I mean, I know me and you both picked before the season started. We both picked this team to win 9 games. We didn't necessarily pick them to win 9 out of the first, 16 games.
9
out of the first 14 games.
Well, 9 felt like the most realistic. I was optimistic about 10, and then like if perfect season goes 11, but 9 felt in that range-ish. But like, the fact that we could win 12, can you even imagine if we go 12-5?
Yeah.
Like that would be. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but like it could definitely happen where we're sitting. I mean, that's an amazing.
I mean, we went out. We've won 12. That's crazy. And then DB says in order for us to miss the playoffs, pretty sure we'd have to lose the next 3 in a row. Not just that, DB. We would have to lose the next 3 in a row, and the Bengals would have to win all 3 in a row.
Yeah.
For that to happen. So, listen, is it looking good? Yes, but we ain't gonna talk about the playoffs in depth at all until it's clinched. Right. I'm sorry, it ain't gonna happen on my channel.
Yeah, no jinxing.
And the next one is, I still remember, and I hate to bring this up, but I still remember that year. Shanahan's last year here, right? He had Cutler starting. We were 8-5. We needed to win 1 out of the last 3 games.
Yep.
And we lost to a shitty Panthers team, and then we went to Buffalo and got blown out, and then we played the Chargers at home in primetime. They flexed the game in primetime, and LaDainian Tomlinson went crazy on us, and we ended up losing. They made the playoffs. So you never know what could happen, but I love where we're sitting right now. It definitely looks good. And then the next one here is, do you think we see Drew Sanders soon? Well, we saw him today. He played. He didn't play defensively. He played on teams. I think that's probably going to be his role unless there's any kind of an injury, because Bonito and Cooper and even, Dondrea Tillman been playing out of their minds. So we'll see. We'll see with Drew Sanders, but it's definitely nice to have him as an option because he can play inside linebacker if needed. He can play pass rusher. So we'll see. And
shout out to Cooper real quick. I just loved the fact that there was multiple plays today where Richardson evaded the initial person who was going to like tackle him, and Cooper came and cleaned it up and stopped something that could have been humongous into just a couple of yards. And I just love his pursuit, and he doesn't get a lot of credit with Benito like balling out the way he has, but he's just not, there's no quit in that guy, and I really like think that's an underrated thing.
Yeah, no doubt. There's a lot of underrated guys still, man. The crazy is to think like how good are PJ Locke and Brandon Jones playing?
Yeah.
Brandon Jones is balling today, not just with the interception, but my God, in coverage he was so good, and then PJ Locke with that huge hit to force the fumble. And we've got guys playing out of their minds right now. And the crazy thing is like we're still not playing that good. Like there's so much room for improvement. I think that's the most exciting part. It's not like, I feel like this team's been maxed out. I think that there's so much, better football ahead for us. So
absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
And then here's a question for you. I'll give it to you, Jeremy, to answer. Are the Bills the best team in the NFL? Their D is suspect, what Pro16K says.
Man, I don't know. I don't know who the best team in the NFL is. It's so hard because the Chiefs, all they do is end up winning, and they look horrible. But like, you can make a case that in 2015 we kind of did that. So week after week, we would like come down to the defense, and then the defense would make a play, and it felt like that's not sustainable, and then we did sustain it. So I don't know. The Bills and the Ravens need to prove it in the playoffs. Like, you cannot be regular season champions. So I'm not saying they cannot do it. I'm just saying I need to see them do it, because until they do it in the playoffs. Because here's the thing: when you have not done it in the playoffs, and things start to not go your way, and you get a weird bounce here, there, the other, and you start, that starts to pucker a little bit. You don't.
Yeah.
That's where the rubber meets the road, and that's the thing that the Chiefs have shown that they can do. They don't get tight when things go bad, and it almost feels like even though they're barely winning games, it's setting you up for the playoffs to be like no panic because we've been here every single game this year to win an ugly game. So that I think that serves them better. Sometimes these teams, remember, like in Minnesota, like the year we won the second Super Bowl, and they went 15-1, and they were just blowing everybody out, and it was a collision course of Broncos versus Minnesota because they had Randy Moss and Chris Carter, Randall Cunningham, and all blah blah blah, and it was like these two teams are going to meet, and what happened in the playoffs? Atlanta freaking out muscled them because they weren't used to playing tight games, and took them to the Super Bowl and got to the Super Bowl. So I need to see it,
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, I think if you're talking about right now, I don't think that there's a doubt about it. The Bills are the best team, in my opinion, because I think that they're unbelievably complete. Josh Allen is playing out of his mind. I really do actually love the Bills. Like, they're definitely my second favorite team. That's not really saying much because I would always only root for the Broncos, but I got some buddies that I'm really close to that love the Bills. I've always just felt bad for that organization, but I love their fans. I don't know what it's got a soft spot for them.
Yeah.
But I think that they're playing super complete football, and them getting rid of Stephon Diggs and putting the offense in the hands of their quarterback and them running the ball has done them a huge service, in my opinion. So you can't really deny. I mean, they went into Detroit today and laid it to the Lions, who all those injuries really suck. But I think they're the best team. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, if Josh Allen is playing against Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game, I'm not confident that the Bills are going to win that game. I would love to see it. But you make a good point that the Chiefs are just kind of cut out for those moments. Yeah. And until someone takes them off of that pedestal, they're going to continue with that.
Yeah, the Chiefs aren't the most talented, but they might be the best just because they know how to win any type of game. So I don't know.
Yep. No doubt about it. I think that there's a lot of room for growth. Bills would scare me if they won 48-17 today. Yeah, I get that, but dude, the Lions are not a slouch team either.
No.
That team is ridiculously good,
juggernaut,
especially on offense. And yes, you make a good point in terms of the weather. I love the fact that we're inside. I always feel like we're at home when we play in LA. A lot of Bronco fans. I think Broncos fans will show up.
Like I said, my brother-in-law's family is going to it. Like anybody who lives, there's so many Bronco fans in like the Southern California area. Like the gear he was wearing, he was like, I got this in San Diego because that's what like they were advertising outside the stadium when he went to it. So there's a ton, and they always show up. It's like people, for whatever reason, I don't know if LA just has like the Dodgers and the Lakers and nice weather and a million other things, but it just doesn't seem to like football just doesn't seem to like be a big deal there as much. And people that are from Denver, it's like live and breathe Denver Broncos football over everything. So yeah, it is kind of like, it's nice to be, even if it's 50-50. That's how it was at the Vegas game. It was like, it's just such a huge disadvantage for a team like that to have a rival have that many opposing fans show up. So
Yeah, no doubt about it. And DB94, I got you, man. I know David will look into it, and so will Jeremy, but I'll do whatever I can to try to figure out as much information as we can about PS2 and Riley Moss. Just from what I've heard, it's not like I have inside sources, but just from what I've heard in terms of like some of the guys that were, like Cecil Lammey and those guys that are at practice, and a lot of people that they were thinking that the Bengals game was always the game that was going to be the target, which is a little frustrating because you technically could have just IR'd Riley Moss for the 4 games and opened up that spot. But you never know. You never know with knee injuries. They're a little bit strange, but I'm hoping to find out as much as we can about PS2 because it didn't look bad. That's kind of what was weird about it. But then he's getting up and he could really put pressure on it. So I hope it's just an ankle and not a knee because I felt like it was more of a knee injury when I looked at it again. But
yeah. Well, did you notice when he took that hit off on the pick, and then on the sideline he seemed fine, and I texted you that. I was like, oh, he looks good. And then he limped off, and it was like I'm fine walking on it. No, I'm not fine walking on it. Oh, now I need your help walking off. But then when he walked to the locker room, he was walking on it again. So I don't know. As someone who's played basketball a lot of years of their life, sometimes you knock knees or knock ankles or do whatever, and then all of a sudden you have like no strength in it, and then like a few minutes later it feels fine, and then the next day you're like, okay, no, it's not fine. So
Yeah.
because the endorphins kick in and you know, whatever it is, but it will be interesting to see. Apparently Albright said that x-rays were negative, so that was the thing with PS2. So hopefully that's the case. Again, I just don't see them risking, if you're like this close to the playoffs, I just don't see them being like cavalier with an injury to PS2 being like, yeah, play on Thursday. I think they'll just want the extra break. Even if they feel like he could maybe go Thursday, they probably are like, well, let's just wait a week.
Well, that mini buy might be good. That might help us out a lot. So this was awesome, guys. I appreciate you guys in the chat, man. You guys have been great. The last one here before we wrap it up. I was in a bar back in the day with MU buddies. We all had our faces painted New York Giants colors, and when Norwood missed the kick, we got out of the bar very fast. Loved the game, though. Yeah, man. Could you imagine going to 4 Super Bowls and losing all 4? I don't feel like as a fan I would ever be able to get over that.
It kind of felt like that. I mean, this was before your era, but like the Giants, then the Redskins, and then just getting absolutely destroyed by the 49ers in like the late 80s, early 90s was just one of those things where when we finally got back to the Super Bowl in 96 or 97, whatever it was, there was a feeling of the whole city of Denver of like, even John Elway's mom, her comment to John Elway was, oh God, we made the Super Bowl. I don't want us to lose again. Like, it was just like, that was where our mental headspace was going to a Super Bowl, because it was such heartbreak losing those earlier ones. And I can't imagine 4 in a row. Like, that has to be, and to lose off a kick. So you means you should have won. It was like so that Kansas, what we felt like an ounce of when against Kansas City, they felt that in a Super Bowl. And
the shitty part is like, you can't play the next week to erase that.
Yeah, there's no erasing it.
You've got to sit with that shit for the whole offseason. Oh, dude, that's brutal.
Dude, they're sitting with it right now. Like, the rest of your life, you're sitting with it's like,
oh yeah,
it's like the Ray Finkel Ace Ventura, like laces out. You're just still thinking about it. It's like something in your head. But that's why Doug is a smart person, because he could read the room and he was like, I am not waiting for something bad to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I'm out. Oh, man, that's funny. Yeah, I feel bad for them. I know, even, to talk about that too with John Elway, I remember, watching, that's like my first early memories of football, right? But I remember he was saying, I just prayed to God and I asked him, please just let us be in it in the fourth quarter.
Exactly.
And then, of course, Green Bay receives the ball, goes right down and score, and you're like, oh my God, here we go again.
Well, he said after the game was over, he said when he was walking onto the field with 2 minutes left, and it was tied, he said out loud, he goes, God, this is all I've ever asked you for.
Yeah.
So whatever happens from now on, you gave me all that I asked for.
Yeah, 1,000%. I feel like that's all you can ask for as an athlete. Like, just give me a shot. You know what I mean? Like, even as a fan too, we're like, I just want to be able to have a shot in the fourth quarter. Like, I was thinking about that today. I was like, I just want to be able to have a chance to win this game in the fourth. Little did I know we'd end up blowing them out. But I'm always thinking, like, you just don't want to get into the fourth quarter and feel like, oh man, we got no chance at it. So, well,
as a competitor and as an athlete, you don't want anything to be gifted to you, but you don't also want to feel like you had no chance. So it's one of those things. It's like, I'm fine living and dying off of the back of what I do. But if I don't feel like I ever even had a chance, like, that feels unfair. And it feels like if it was too easy, that doesn't feel like I did anything. So it's like, just give me the chance to make or break something. And, that's one of those things where I never felt as euphoric as I did winning that Super Bowl. Because it was like overcoming those other Super Bowl losses. Like, if the Bills were to win a Super Bowl this year or whenever, if they win one, like, the feeling that those fans will have they won't. You can never top that.
Yeah. I'm still kind of pissed at John. He should have came back for the 99 season. I think we would have three-peated. Or at least rolled with Bubby Brister. But
that was a big mistake. That was a big mistake where he pulled him the week before the beginning of the season. Greasy tried his best, threw a pick, ends up tearing Terrell Davis's knee because he's trying to tackle somebody off of a pick, and that was the end of the run. And you're just like, oh man. I mean, look, we got back-to-back Super Bowls. Those are the best times we've ever had, but yeah, it's just one of those things that, again, that's what's so exciting about what's happening right now is when we finally got good, or not finally got, we were good enough to make the Super Bowl, but we never felt like the favorite in the Super Bowl with John Elway until those last years. But you knew the clock was ticking on it. You knew, please come back for another season, and then he did, and you won again. Please come back for another season, and they didn't. Manning the same way. Manning was we literally took a rock and squoze the last drop you could possibly get a Peyton Manning out to win that Super Bowl, and you knew it was that was it. But what's nice about this is it's we're just starting to come up a hill, and that's why it's so exciting. And who knows what's going to happen in the future? Super Bowls, not Super Bowls, playoffs, whatever. But it's just we're so far ahead of what everybody thought was going to be 3 months ago that it just feels like even in a game like this where your rookie quarterback's struggling, things are bouncing weird, all this stuff's going on, to keep your head and to win a freaking big game that you going into it you knew you had to have, like last year where we just crapped the bed against New England. We didn't. We didn't do it. And there was some luck involved, and sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but we handled our business. And I mean, you just got to smile at this point and just be like, thank you for, you got to feel good about it. No matter how bad it felt for 3 quarters, they did what they had to do.
They sure did, man. They sure did. Well, Jeremy, appreciate it, man. I can't believe how fast every single time we do this, it flies by. We've been doing this for an hour. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Everyone in the chat, you guys are awesome. You really are. Be sure to check out Jeremy's channel at Jeremy Sean A. Subscribe to his channel. He's got a awesome Bo Nix video on there as well that he had cut up way before any of us even thought about Bo Nix coming here to Denver. So
for the haters,
definitely check that out, man. And we will most likely be live again around this time tomorrow with David. So
I might not be able to come. I might not be able to come. We have family in town. I might not be here, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, we'll hope we get the whole gang together. If not, then we'll do it. But appreciate it. See you guys. Have a great evening, man, and go Broncos as always, baby. Let's get this last win to make it into the playoffs, man.
Yeah, I don't want to back in. Let's freaking just charge our way in. Our way in.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Bye.